Hey, this is Alan Schimmel, DevOps.com, DevOps TV, here at Jenkins World Day 2, and happy to be joined by Michael Sage of Fugue. Michael, welcome.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Yep. So, Michael, I literally pulled you out of your booth.
Indeed.
Why don't we start off with, I don't know if everyone in our audience is familiar with Fugue, so why don't we tell them a little bit about, what's Fugue? What do you guys do?
Fugue is all about provisioning cloud workloads at scale.
Okay.
We're essentially a build, enforce, and terminate automation solution, which gives developers, DevOps engineers, anyone the power to declare a cloud configuration in code, have that cloud configuration validated at compile time, deployed into any cloud. We support AWS right now. We have Azure, and the other clouds are coming. Mm-hmm. And then enforce that state. So whatever's declared in code is operationally enforced automatically by an orchestration engine that we have called the conductor.
Really? Oh, very cool.
When it comes time to tear that environment down, the conductor uses the same declaration to basically deprovision all of the different resources. So no more orphan components, no more
cloud sprawl.
Cloud sprawl, over provisioning. The meter keeps running.
Yeah.
You forget about some.
Yeah, no, Amazon makes a fortune on it.
Exactly. Yeah. So we really like the fact that we can declare the state in what we call a composition, a single file that becomes the source of truth for the entire life cycle of those resources.
So let me ask you a question, Michael. Do you declare the date of death on the date of birth, or is that that could be done at any time?
Right now, it's done via either you could do it manually, the command line, but also you can automate it. For example, in Jenkins, we've been using pipeline.
Right.
To spin up identical clones of environments for staging and testing and so forth.
Got it.
That are then deprovisioned. And a coming feature that we have is called regeneration, but essentially it's built around the concept of a time to live.
So it is. So
yeah,
you give it
exactly.
a definite
That's right.
a life cycle and done.
Yeah,
so you mentioned you're using Jenkins pipeline with that. So this is a Jenkins 2.0 feature pipeline.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
so
we saw it coming. Everybody's pipeline is so popular.
Right.
It's a pretty hot kind of a more advanced way to do things. So we just went right for it.
Very cool. Where's the company based?
The company is actually based in Frederick, Maryland.
Oh, back east.
Yeah, and a lot of our engineers are in the DC area.
I know Frederick, Maryland.
Yeah, it's cool.
So back in the day when I was selling security into the federal government, co-founded a security company. We had a big reseller in Frederick. I think it was like a HubSpot zone or something. Not HubSpot. That's what we use for marketing. But a hub zone where they had like a depressed area that they were trying to, build up, and you got Fed benefits if your business was in there.
I think that's still happening. And,
no, it's a big area for that.
Well, our founder was one of the lead solution architects for AWS, and before that also worked with the Coast Guard.
Oh, okay.
So there's a lot of big network in the area there.
Yeah, no, Frederick's a big,
and it's a nice little sort of central spot between Baltimore and DC and
Pennsylvania's right not far from there either.
Myself.
Are you? All right, very cool. But and then are you guys venture backed right now? Bootstrap? Yeah.
Yeah, led by NEA.
Oh, excellent. And how long have you been in business?
The company has been in business, I'm going to say 3.5 to 4 years.
Oh, okay.
Much of that time was done really getting the engineering right?
Yeah.
We really wanted to come to market with a very elegantly designed approach that could be really robust.
Got it.
Really amazing engineers on the team, and that's one of the reasons I joined, is I saw the quality of code that these
When
guys
did you come on board?
I've been on board for about 4 months now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Michael, who's the typical customer there?
Large-scale AWS users.
Big AWS shops.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when we start to really take advantage of what the cloud is, we don't really see the cloud as a remote data center. We see it as a globally distributed computer, right? All of these resources are there for the using, and they're meant to be used in a very dynamic way.
Okay.
Right, and so we still see a lot of customers who they still have data center concepts and data center tooling, and so they think about just moving that what they're doing now with the data center into AWS with the same kind of end-tier architectures and long-lived servers and things like that. We think that's probably the wrong way to go. And if you really embrace the cloud, it wants you to take advantage of it in a much more dynamic and a high-scale kind of way. And so Fugue was designed very much to manage the problems that come up when you're trying to use AWS like that, right? And there are some first-generation tools that don't really scale very well. You know, they may just use JSON, for example, which is, you know, it can get very complicated. If you have a very large workload, you end up with thousands of lines of JSON code, which is not human readable. You can't really comment it. You can't really work with it in a DevOps way. And so we wanted to have a better approach that was based on, you know, more progressive programmatic principles, reusable libraries,
more cloud native.
More cloud native, exactly.
Yeah.
So very large workloads where those kinds of problems come up, that's where we really shine, because we just make it super simple.
Excellent. So we're here at Jenkins World.
Yep.
Is this the first time you've been to Jenkins World?
No, I've been here before, actually, but this is my first time with Fugue.
Yeah, well, obviously you're only here 4 months.
That's right.
What did you think this year?
I love it. I love that. It's
huge, man. It got so big so quick.
I know, and everybody's here.
Yeah.
It's become like one of the premier events in the community.
I think it has. It has. You know, we at DevOps.com, as part of our DevOps Connect conferences, we do like a roadshow version of this called CD Summit Jenkins Days.
Yep, I remember it last year.
Yeah, and we hit a lot of cities, but it's nice to see the bigger version with so many. I mean, there were about 1,300 people here, I think, so it was all good.
Yeah.
Where do you see Fugue going in the future?
You know, I think what we're going to start seeing is we're going to start seeing people doing things like immutable infrastructure, right? I mean, we're progressively promoting these kinds of ideas where, you know, why kind of nurse a server, right? When you have a new version of the app.
It's silly.
Right. I mean, and with such widespread container adoption, people starting to do things like create Amazon machine images for their code as the build artifact, the deployable artifact. We want to be able to make that super simple. So, for example, creating a Fugue composition that will manage and automate a blue-green deployment for you using those kinds of artifacts. Those are the kinds of things that we're working on. And you know, it really gets much bigger than that when you start to do things like what we can do with enforcement. Our conductor can, like I said before, it basically uses the composition that you declared as the source of truth. And when you have an organization, for example, that needs to be, say, HIPAA compliant, right? And you have regulatory compliance. There are certain things you can and can't do in AWS, right? For example, with HIPAA compliance, there are only certain instance types that you can use. Organizationally, that's very hard to enforce and audit. So with our conductor, we can automate that enforcement, right? The conductor can say, you know what, you're trying to use an instance that's not allowable by your organization. So those are the kinds of cool things that we're
That is very cool. Yeah. Very, very cool. You know, and this gets back to that cloud native thing we were talking about too. If you're not going to take advantage of the medium, you're always sort of a stranger in a strange land.
That's right.
Right?
You know, I think it happens so fast. Right?
Yeah, it does.
But the transformation happens so fast, and we're left with sort of bags of scripts from the sysadmin days. You know,
I mean, we see it in security though too, like people who are bringing sort of that old time network security, on-prem security, and saying, "Oh, we're just going to move it to the cloud." Right. It just doesn't. Right. It's it's a stranger in a strange land. Right. You're not taking advantage of what's there.
You know, our founders are really, really smart guys, and they sort of saw the cloud as very similar to the old hardware days when the programmers would work directly against the hardware before common operating systems came along, and they realized, you know, the cloud is very much like that. It's just a set of APIs, and everyone's working directly against these APIs. There's all sorts of chaos that happens there. For example, in AWS, if you hit the APIs too much, it starts to limit you. You hit this API throttling problem. Well, we designed the Fugue solution very much with the idea of a cloud operating system.
Got it.
Where our compositions are the programs that are compiled, and then our conductor is like the kernel. And it's actually running those. You can actually look at the Fugue compositions that are running very much like a process table. And you
Got
can
it.
manage them that way as well. So for Fugue run or Fugue kill or Fugue suspend, and the conductor serves as that layer between the programmers, the DevOps engineers, and the cloud resources, and it really makes the whole thing much more manageable. So we see that kind of orchestration as well as command line, ease of use as a really good way to bring new practices and new patterns to the cloud usage. Yeah.
Excellent. Michael, we're about out of time. We're going to call it a wrap. But Michael Sage, Fugue, thanks for joining us on DevOps TV. This is Alan Schimmel for DevOps.com.